Good morning. It's a nice sunshiny day and a great day to be alive. The sun is out. The island chickens are doing their thing, and the yard guys out mowing the lawns and collecting the debris. What more can you ask for? Well, I'm Doug. I'm running for Pres for 2028, and wow, there has been so much happening. It's just, it's hard to keep up with it all. You've got Donald Trump just trying to decimate the Houthis. They're out there saying that the United States killed thousands of civilians. I'm not sure how much that is true, but it's potentially true. On the other hand, they have been shooting at ships and trying to take them over there in the Red Sea. So that's not good. And so they're being dealt with like pirates. And it's just one of those things. And war is a nasty thing, and people die, and it's a rough position in life, but people die. But we just had tax day. The day I hate more than any other day of the year, April 15th, has come and gone. Hopefully the accountant got everything done, and I got the information I was supposed to have to pay what was needed to be paid. Really sucks, though. We live in a country where we're supposed to be free, and yet we have all kinds of politicians trying to turn people into criminals that are good people. They're trying to protect us from ourselves. And yet we have real problems looming. We've got veterans who are still committing suicide at astounding rates. We have veterans that are homeless. Some of them by choice, some of them not by choice. But still, it's too many. And a lot of these people have been in wars, and it makes me sad because a lot of those people they absolutely could have had a better life had the United States government been willing. And there's my island chicken crowing. But these veterans, they've served our country. They've been to war. Why should they be in a position where they're not being taken care of appropriately? We've been handing out billions and billions of dollars to foreign governments and saying it's saving millions or hundreds of thousands of lives or something like that, and making people feel more comfortable in their skin, whatever that means. Um, and yet, the United States government has not necessarily been out handing out money to the world until relatively recently in our history. And it hasn't really improved how people view other people in the United States. We have um, people who want to come here because it provides a lot of opportunity, but I'm not sure that they're coming here for um, the freedoms as much as they are for the opportunities, and they're bringing their politics with them. Kind of like Democrats moving from California to Texas and saying, we don't like what's going on in California, so we're going to go to Texas. And then they start voting in the same people they said that they didn't like. It doesn't make any sense. Uh, but yeah, we have that freedom to do just that in this country. We can move from one state to another, and we can um, move from a state to a territory. Um, we can live in Guam if we want to and still be part of the United States. Um, it's one of those things where, literally we can live in any part of the United States and have all the benefits of being in the United States. Living in territories is a little bit different than being in the States, but we're still afforded all the rights of the Constitution. And we have people who are trying to say that anybody who's in our country should be afforded the same set of rights as people who were born and raised as American citizens. And even if they're illegally here in our country, if you go into some countries illegally, they immediately put you in jail. And then you get to sit in their jail for 3 to 5 years, and then they boot you out. At least here, you can be booted straight to your country without having to do jail time. The current administration is working hard to deport hundreds of thousands and requesting people to self-deport if they are not here legally. Um, I would like to say that, we are a country who is inviting, and yet we are. You just got to follow the process. Anybody can come into our country with the right paperwork and stay for a little while and then go back home. They can even start prepping to be able to become a legal resident here, and even potentially start paperwork to try and become a U.S. citizen. Is it cheap? No. Our greedy government is not that helpful. It wants everybody's money. Um, Speaking of government wanting everybody's money, when you earn money, they want a part of what you earn. What's up with that? I've never understood why you should be punished for earning. It just doesn't make sense. I know it helps government to pay its bills, but government has not been the greatest steward of our money. And stealing from our paychecks just straight off the top, just because we're earning, and saying, oh, we're going to tier this so that it's fair. Well, I'm not sure how fair that is. Honestly, I don't think it's fair at all. I I personally think it's a waste of a lot of money. I think it's a waste of a lot of people's time, and it creates a lot of non-productive jobs. And some people in the IRS would say, well, I'm being productive. I'm collecting money for the government. Well, I guess if that's your definition of productive, but I'm not sure that's really productive. I think that is a cost center. It costs money to collect taxes. Um, there's better ways. Oh, yeah. Let's have a national sales tax and get rid of the income tax. Whenever a product is sold, a tax is collected, and that tax is immediately paid on those products. For consumer goods, when it hits the consumer shelf, all those products need to have a price tag that includes the price of tax. And you say, oh, that's going to raise prices on things, and it will have a negative impact on yada, yada, yada. Well, yeah, it'll make things go up a little bit. But in the end, as a consumer, you know exactly how much things are going to cost you out of your pocket. Not only that, but now you also are in control of how much taxes you pay. Because maybe you might decide, hey, I can put off buying that car for a little bit because I'm not ready to pay that much in taxes. And maybe you decide, I don't care. I want that fancy car, and I want that Lamborghini or that Ferrari or that Bugatti. Who knows? And 6 months ago, that Bugatti was 2.4 million, but today it's 3.2 because there's added taxes on the car. Big what? If you really want it, you want it, and you're willing to pay it. And it's a done deal. And those taxes get paid pretty much immediately. And within 24 hours of you signing the deal and handing over the money. And if it's the bank's money, well, you know, sorry, you know, it's still going to the government. Think of how many jobs in the IRS would not be needed with that system. It would make it so that all these open government jobs could now be applied for by IRS agents, and they would have the benefit of going for those jobs first, just because they're government employees already. And some will end up losing their jobs, and I'm sorry, you know, but we need a base of productive jobs in this country. I know that there are tons of people who sit there and say, but Americans, they don't want to do farm labor and they don't want to do this or that or the other. Well, there is some level of truth to that, but we're a pretty innovative country. Maybe instead of, I don't know, hand picking oranges, we develop um, a robot that has sensors that can go through the tree and pick the right fruit and then move on to the next tree. It takes that piece of fruit, puts it into a tray, it rolls down and into a box. And when the box is full, it slides over into a storage bin and the next box is ready to go. I don't know. I mean, we're a country who can do a lot of things and invent tons of things. We want to sit there and say, oh, there's not enough kids that want to work at McDonald's. Well, you know, to lower costs, we've got restaurants who have now implemented kiosks in the restaurants, and you pay at the kiosk and you collect your food. And a lot of the jobs that are being done literally are automating. Now we have higher paying jobs to do menial labor type work. It means that people are making more money and they're producing more. It's productive. They're producing product. We need more of that. We need more innovation. We need more ways to improve our lifestyles and make life easier for us. That doesn't make the job easier. It just means that the job is different. And I'd sit there and talk about robots, but robotics is a huge industry. Robotics can be used to do things such as harvesting cabbage and lettuce and even strawberries and other other fruits off of vines. It literally can be done. Now, are we ready for that? Is it cost effective yet? Well, we don't know yet. But once we get to that point where a robot is in position to be able to do that kind of work, those robots, they can work more aggressively and continuously with manual labor, and having migrants come through to harvest lettuce and cabbage and whatever. You've got a situation where it's done during the day, and it's done during the day primarily. And we sit there and say, oh, Americans won't do those jobs. It's because there's not an expectation that Americans will do those jobs. There are a lot of farmers out there who would hire regular Joes from off the street to help them out. And if those regular Joes had ideas that would improve the lives and reduce costs on farming, then I'm guarantee the farmers would be looking at that. I mean, we've got so much innovation in farming, and yet we still have migrants coming up from Mexico with their little work cards to pick lettuce and cabbage in California, and pick peppers in New Mexico, and a lot of different farm work. And they feel like they're making a lot of money. And yet those same jobs could be done potentially cheaper using newer technology. And the technology we have can potentially help us to plant more food and have more food security. I was reading an article recently that said that we're looking at the population of the planet increasing to 9.2 billion in the not too far future. And they're complaining about food security. And we have people complaining about cows farting and how that's a greenhouse gas. And so we need to get rid of that industry. And so we've developed meat in labs. Does it have the same nutritional value as livestock? I don't know. There is frustration on my part because I don't know as much as I want to know. And learning has been going on so much. And the amount of knowledge that's available to us is doubling so fast. It's faster than we can keep up with. Yet we have simple problems that have been problems for centuries. That is migration of people. And now we've got people here in the United States that are like, well, Europeans shouldn't have migrated to North America and South America, and we're destroying the lives of indigenous people. Really, are we? And we have people who are sitting there saying, we're entitled to this land or that land because my indigenous forefathers owned this land. Well, sorry, but that's not the life we're living today. It's just not. We have opportunities. If you want the land, buy the land. We've set up so many governments within our governments that it's absolutely ridiculous. And we don't have a lot of elected people doing much of anything. And the hired people are doing the majority of the work. Not only are they doing the majority of the work, they're also doing the majority of the fraud and the majority of things that are just eating up taxpayer money without regard to how it impacts people. We're finding government employees who have decided that they're in a position of being able to control dollars, and with their position, they can use those dollars in a way they see fit. We've got people in Illinois who literally stole millions and millions and millions of dollars to run their own personal horse farm. That is real. I believe it was in Dixon, Illinois. And the person did it for years and years and years, only recently being caught. They're apparently not having audit controls that make sense, because there is no way that any person should be able to defraud the citizens of a community of monies and then work on getting government to increase the tax payments so that they can live a lifestyle that they want to live. Not cool. But the fewer number of people that you have having access to how those funds are collected and dealt with, that puts everyone in a better position. It literally, it puts us in a situation where we can better control, and politicians can have better controls over what is happening. We can have auditors from private organizations come in, or even better, the U.S. federal government come in and at local books and put fraudsters in jail, take whatever they've stolen from us, and get that money back into the coffers where they belong. Yeah, theft of money is one of those hard things because once it's stolen, it's harder to recover. A, if you are able to recover it, are you recovering the full benefit that that money provided? Because there is not only um, the money that was stolen, but also the cash flow that comes with that money and how it flows through the community. And sometimes, if that person being fraudulent, they could create a situation where once they're caught, they could be harming a lot of other people because now a certain cash flow that they had been controlling then becomes no cash flow to that person who was expecting cash flow from that person. It's a hard thing to judge. It's a hard thing to understand. And yet we all understand the negatives and the drawbacks to fraud, literally. Anyway, back to what I wanted to really talk about. We need to change our tax system. We need to change our social safety net. We need to improve the social safety net in such a way that it encourages people to be able to get and find work, enables people to grow skills that helps them to increase their wealth. We need to encourage people to save. And that brings us to Social Security. We passed Social Security, years and years and years ago, probably better than 80 years ago, or better than 70 years ago anyway. And in all of that time, the money that has been being collected to Social Security literally has been being paid by young people to help older people. And while that idea has been a fairly good idea, the projected lifespan of the average American has been increasing, which puts greater strain on systems. And we already know government's not the greatest steward of our money. So why do we want to give money to the government? And then government's gone, well, let's create the 401k system and 403b system so Americans can be investing into their retirements. All of these programs that were supposed to be helping Americans literally only helped a handful and really hurt a lot more. We used to have companies have pension plans, and government would monitor and audit, ensure that those pension plans were solvent and doing the things that they needed to be doing. And occasionally you would have fraudsters get into those programs. But for the most part, companies did a fantastic job of ensuring that those funds were available because they knew that they had to be able to live off those funds too as executives, and they knew that the people that they had working for them were going to rely on those funds as well. Then we come up with programs that eliminate the pension plans and put the onus back on the taxpayer to be saving. And then we're trying to collect more taxes from people because government doesn't spend money wisely. So now we've got a situation where government's collecting more money. They don't have good controls over the Social Security program. Social Security program's been trying to go bankrupt since the 70s. They keep on doing little things that push the death date of it out 5, 10, 15, 20 years and saying, well, we'll have to do something here in the next few years to solve this issue. It's ridiculous. There is no reason for that. Now, we know that if the average American worker, a lot of them start working when they're in high school at little jobs. If they were having to save just a small bit of money every month and continuously add to that fund, that by the time they reach the age of retirement, they will be a millionaire. Woo woo. Wonderful. But $1 million today is not the same as $1 million was 50 years ago. We also know that most Americans have very poor financial literacy. It's like reading. You've got a lot of people who can read in this country, but a lot of them do not understand what they're reading because they've had a poor education, because government is in control of that education. And they want to sit there and say, oh, we're doing something here. We're giving a standardized test to ensure that these kids understand what they're and they're being given tools to be able to basically abuse the test and get past the test and make it look like that they're doing better than they really are. Which is the government way. We do things to make it look like we're doing something better, and in the end, it's just theater. Literally, just theater. So why do we do it? I don't know. It is a frustration to me that we are not doing things that are benefiting those who should be learning. And we have teachers who they barely have enough skills to be able to teach, and yet they have college degrees. And we have programs in place that literally took people who wanted to go to college, said, we're going to make it so that you can afford to go to college. And instead of making it so that it was affordable, where somebody could just go to work and pay for their tuition, they says, we're going to hand you out loans. And colleges went, ooh, look at all this free money we can get. And tuition started rising at rates of 25% because loans were so prevalent. Now we're sitting there going, we can't have Americans not paying back their student loans, and yet they're so burdened with so much student loan debt because schools took advantage of students because there was free money out there. And you had the federal government going, see, we did our part to make this whole program work and make it so you can get better jobs. And now we have people who are coming out of college, and it's sad to say, but there are a lot of people that graduate from college and they make not much more than if they had just not gone to college. And then there's burdened with loans and all kinds of debt that they could have literally done away with by not going to college, but they were lured by this idea that they would make so much more money by going to college. And you have government who facilitated the ripping off of American students who are just trying to get ahead, who have been following what they've been taught in public schools. You get a good education and you're going to do a lot better for yourself. Now, is that totally untrue? No, it's not all untrue. A good education is still a good education and it still has value. And that education, it doesn't always pay off the way that is expected. We don't have a system that understands and values the education and how it's being pushed forward and how it's benefiting or not benefiting. It's a frustration on my part because I see where some individuals are literally benefiting. They get the right skills, they get the right tools, and they have entities that literally are helping to grow what they're doing. And then you have government that comes in and it starts picking winners and losers. Government is literally a destructive power. And, and that destructive power is not even recognized. They just say, well, we did this for you, so you owe us back. I wish I could say that for everyone that should be true, but government has made it where it doesn't make sense. Anyway, um, ugh, the Caribbean life out here, the bugs and everything, while it's beautiful and everything, sometimes there are bugs that just bug you. Anyway, we have so many Americans that have done so much for this country, and politicians, they don't care. We have Americans who have been murdered, and they're not a vote anymore for the politician. It's not their power base. Dead people don't help them. So they don't care. There are people who have been significantly harmed by crime. They care a little bit about those people, but they really don't want to help them because they're one-offs. The military, on the other hand, is an area that they feel like they need to fund. They're willing to fund projects for the military, but they're not really willing to fund the people who actually run the military. You have generals and you have those very high up people who make significant incomes in the military. And yet that's not the people we're talking about here, or that I'm talking about. I'm talking about the little guy, the guy who went to war, who got a Purple Heart and is now disabled and is struggling with his mental health. So that person goes off and he goes to a gun store and he follows the required process to buy a gun, and he commits suicide. And yet we're out there going, oh, it's such a horrible thing that these people are committing suicide, and we need better gun control so that that won't happen. Yet we're not providing controls that ensure that these military people actually are safe. We're just preventing average everyday citizens from being able to access the full complement of firearms that they want to get to, because it's all in the idea of safety. Oh my Lord. These people and their idea of safety, it's ridiculous, because they're not doing anything. They keep on wanting the same things over and over, and yet they're not providing new ideas. They're providing old ideas to build on old ideas. And the old ideas haven't been working. Maybe we need to do something different. because the Second Amendment isn't going away. It's not. We live in a country that has literally more guns than people. We have a military that trains people how to shoot to kill, and they train them how to do it very well. And there's an expectation that when we go to war, that they'll use those skills. We have wars around the world, and yet we're not being a leader. We're not even being the cop. We say we are, but we're not being the cop. We got Trump, who's sitting there siding with Russia over Ukraine, saying Ukraine should give up their land when there was an agreement that the United States and Russia would make sure that Ukraine was safe if they gave up their nuclear weapons. They gave up their nuclear weapons, and then Russia decides, oh, there's Nazis in Ukraine, and the president of Ukraine is a Nazi. Excuse me? President of Ukraine is a Jew. That doesn't make sense. I just don't get the world, but I know that we need to change how we're doing things. It needs to start with taxes. It needs to start with getting more productive jobs out there. It means making government smaller. Government does not need to be as big as it is. Trump has done a lot to shrink the size of government, and a lot of people are really angry about that. It's not something to be angry about. That's something to be lauded. There's also a lot of things that are going on that they're questionable at best, but still action is being taken. It's choosing a direction, and it's doing something. There are a lot of organizations who have been getting checks from the government to do things, to just do things. I'm sorry, but a lot of those organizations who have been getting a check from the US government to do things should be doing those things anyway. And they don't need a check from the United States government. Those organizations should be going to the public and saying, hey, this is our goal. This is where we're headed. This is what we're trying to accomplish, and raise the money. They don't need the US government to pick losers and winners, or winners and losers. As a public, we're smart enough to know where we want our money to go. We do not need a politician telling us that our money needs to go to Planned Parenthood if we don't want our money going to Planned Parenthood. If we want our money going to Planned Parenthood, then we can donate to it. If you want to send your money to Birthright for anti-abortion care, and you see that as something that you want to do, donate there. They don't need money from the US government to help with that. don't need to be hiding people and shielding them through non-government organizations to literally use a non-government organization to legally be mules of people and to create migrations of people. If they want to come to this country, that's fine. Do it legally. There are ways to do it legally. There are ways to get this done that makes sense. Ensures that they have what's needed to be able to come here and survive. When they get here, there shouldn't be a check for them or a cell phone or anything else. They should be coming here with what they need to be able to get an apartment or a house or a vehicle or whatever they need to get. They need to be able to they need to, as migrants, be able to support themselves and get themselves into a position where they can live here without reliance on the US taxpayer. Well, I'm going to start wrapping this up. I'm Doug. I'm running for president in 2028. I have a lot of ideas. If you have ideas and you want me to hear them, I'm happy to hear everyone's idea. And if you disagree with my ideas, talk to me. I am willing to change my ideas if you can provide me information that actually makes me feel like your idea is better than mine. I like new ideas. I like learning. I like having opportunities. I also think that there are better ways that we can be doing things that make sense and keep us going in the right direction, that help us to pay ourselves, gets government out of areas of our lives where it doesn't make sense. We shouldn't be made to be a criminal because we went and earned some money and taxes weren't paid on it. We need to be paying as we go, not having our earnings stolen from us because we have the ability to earn. Well, I thank you for listening if you're here. And if you're not, well, I'm reposting this and you can watch it again on the rebroadcast. And you'll have a wonderful rest of your day. Make sure you get out and vote. Every position that out there, you need to know what they stand for, not just vote for me. Make sure that they have a platform that you understand and agree with. Don't just vote for somebody because they've got a D behind their name or an R behind their name or an I behind their name. We need this. We need this bad. We need people who vote intentionally. Thanks so much and have a good day. And make sure to listen to me and see if I resonate with you. And hopefully I can get your vote. Doug for Pres 2028.